Welcome to Kathy's Renewed You.
Hi, I'm Kathy's daughter, Tori, and today I want to talk about the value of bringing your adult self in perspective and your little young self together and having them help each other. And the whole idea started from a movie that I watched over the weekend called The Kid. It's a Disney movie. Bruce Willis is in it. It is heartwarming and lovely, and my husband and I both love to watch it. Just to give you kind of a synopsis if you haven't seen it, Bruce Willis is Big Rusty, and he's an image consultant. He's very harsh, straightforward. He says stuff like "call the ambulance." I mean, he's not a nice person, but very successful. Looks very good. Lives by himself. Nice cars. Lots of money. So successful in his terms. For reasons that we don't ever really understand because it's a Disney movie, he comes face to face with little 8-year-old Rusty. So it's the 8-year-old version of himself. Well, in the beginning, they don't really care for each other very much. Big Russ, is kind of repulsed almost by little Rusty. Little Rusty is a little pudgy and he's clumsy and awkward. All of the things that Big Russ really worked hard to get rid of in his life. I mean, he did transform his image and now he helps other people do it. Now, little Rusty, when he finds out that Russ is the older version of himself, he's like, where's my dog? Where's Chester, the best dog on earth that I'm going to have? And where's my wife? And how come I'm not a pilot? So he's also disappointed in this older version of himself. So they don't start off terribly well. Neither of them likes the other very much. Of course, over time, they get to know each other, which is one of the valuable themes in this, is getting to know our younger selves and accept them as they are. So Big Russ does begin to do that, and he thinks he's figured it out, that he's supposed to help little Rusty in this big fight that, in his words, secures them as the biggest loser, all the way through high school. So they go back in time magically, and they get to the day, and everything turns out. Little Rusty stands up for himself. Isn't branded a loser, but he does get sent to the principal's office, and his mom comes to get him. And you get a hint that his mom isn't very well. And they go back home, and when they get home, his dad drives up at the same time, and his dad is so super angry. Now, Big Russ is watching off on the side, on the curb, and little Rusty's dealing with his parents. And his father, says, oh, you're not supposed to be out. To his mother, the doctor told you not to leave, and so we know something's wrong. And then he gets down into Rusty's face, and he shakes him, and tells him to stop crying. And, what do you want to do that to your mom for? You don't want to worry her when she's dying. And that's how he tells him that his mom is dying. Big Russ is on the side watching this whole thing. So the parents go inside, and little Rusty walks up to Big Russ and says, Mom's dying. And Big Russ goes, I know, and gives him a hug. And, oh God, it makes me tear up just to talk about it. But wouldn't it be great if we had our adult selves with us when we were small, so that those things that happen to us that we think are important or are our fault, we had that adult self to look at us and say, no, it's not your fault. And it's exactly what Big Russ does. He grabs him and he hugs him and he's like, it's not your fault. Dad's just scared. He knows he's going to have to raise us and he doesn't really know how. I mean, he takes a moment, that was very scarring for little Rusty and softens it, puts it in perspective. And that's really what he went back to do, not to help him with the fight, but to help him with this news about his mom. So in the end, it turns out fine. They go eat and they magically see their future self, even older than 40-year-old about Russ. And he's fine. He's got a dog. He's a pilot. Everything turns out just fine. But there's so many themes in this movie. Wouldn't it be great as children to know that we really turn out okay in the end? All right, so let me just tell you, you're going to turn out okay in the end, no matter what. It's going to be okay in the end, so that's good. Now, the other one is to have an adult perspective on the things that happen to us when we're younger. in the leadership series and in coaching, what I talk about is when you're born, you have this magnificent garden and it's open and lush. And then as things happen to us, we rope off certain areas as no-go areas. Like someone tells us that we can't draw. And so we're like, well, can't draw. Let's just put a fence, a rock, no drawing place. We're not drawing. And then say somebody tells you that your ears are big. And so you rope that off and like, no, I'm wearing my hair down, ears are big, avoid that. Or someone hurts your feelings, we get into relationships. Every time something happens, we kind of rope off that area and say, nope, not going there anymore. It's very useful to go back to, as an adult, to grab a hold of your little self and walk up to those places and say, okay, let's really look at this. Someone said you couldn't draw. Who was it? It was some little kid who just was being mean or, was jealous or whatever. So let's take down that fence. Let's look under the rock. Let's get rid of the rock. And you can draw. You can try it. You can practice it. You can take drawing lessons, right? So you've freed up that space. And then let's go look at your ears. All right, so someone did actually tell me when I was young that I had big ears. And I'll let you see my ears. See, they're not too terribly big. They're ears. We all have them. But for a long time, that was a big deal for me. Until I went back with an adult perspective and said, I don't have huge Dumbo ears, and even if I did, so what? And so we took down the fence and lifted that rock up. So there is so much value in going in with an adult perspective on those things that we've sort of roped off. And if it's scary, take somebody with you. Take a coach. It's one of the things that we do is help people clear those spots so that in the end, you've got that whole expanse of your life back. All those spaces that were off limits before are now places that you can roam and explore. Now, the movie reminded me of one other thing, and it's related. And it is that a lot of times we aren't that kind to ourselves. The same way that adult Russ really didn't like little Rusty, like, oh, he's overweight and he's, awkward and he's, awful. We look at ourselves sometimes that way and we bring it with us into adulthood. So the first thing that I would love for you to do, and something I've done myself and I've done with my clients, is to find a picture of yourself when you were young. All right, an adorable picture. All right, here's mine. This is adorable, Kathy. Aren't I the cutest thing ever? Yes, and so are you. We were all adorable and cute when we were little. So go find a picture of yourself when you were adorable and cute. If you don't have a picture of yourself for some reason from when you were little, go find a picture of a little kid in a catalog that looks like you and make that you. All right? We're good at pretending. So then you're going to take that picture and look at it and think, I want to protect and take care of this adorable little thing. If this was a real child in your life, just the way Rusty came into Russ's life, this is a child that you would want to care for, that you want to make sure they eat well, and you want to make sure they get enough sleep, and you don't want to be unkind to them. You don't want to call them names and give them limitations. You want to be nice to this little person. So you are the little person, and you do want to be kind to yourself. So whenever you have a tendency to say, oh, you're stupid, or oh, exactly, no, that's not the way you talk to that adorable little creature that's inside. It's a perspective shift. So the bottom line here is, one, you're adorable. Just know that. Everyone is adorable. We all have this insanely cute 2-year-old inside of us. When my boys were going through some of their trying, awkward adolescent ages, I would look at them and I would picture the 2-year-old that they had been and say, that's still there. That is still my little 2-year-old inside there. And then you can create that feeling of love and affection, even though it's kind of clothed in a nasty adolescent for a little while. All right, so that's the first thing, is see the adorableness in yourself and treat yourself well. The second one is that there's real value in revisiting, dragging little self along to all those places that are off limits, really looking at them, peeking up, taking up the fence, and clearing the space. because life is so much bigger and it feels so much more expansive. There's so many more possibilities and opportunities when we clear the space and have a large, lush garden once again to live and to play in.